Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the arrival guidelines for new international students who will be coming to the University of Cincinnati beginning summer semester 2022, which starts May 9th. So we're just over a month away. We look forward to your arrival, and we want to make sure that you understand all the things that we need you to do for your arrival so that it is smooth and that you fulfill all the requirements, not just with our office, with your admitting departments, with our health services department, so you know how to use the airport transportation, all the things you're going to need to know to arrive and get started here at the University of Cincinnati. My name is Ron Cushing. I'm the Director of International Services here and look forward to your arrival and hopefully at some point meeting all of you face to face. But we are going to cover multiple things during this seminar. But I want to begin with covering the arrival guidance that is out there. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our federal government has rules and regulations about travel. The University of Cincinnati has rules and regulations about attending classes in person, and we want to make sure that you're all clear on all of the tests and reporting structures that you're going to need to follow regarding your arrival and COVID-19 and your vaccination status. So let's start with U.S. requirements. So our federal government requires that you must be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 by an FDA approved or authorized vaccine. So you must have received all of the necessary doses for the vaccine, and 2 weeks' time must have passed since you received your final dose. So make sure if you're arriving on, May 8th, that you've gotten all the doses at least 2 weeks before then. In addition to that, airlines are going to require that you have a negative COVID-19 test within 24 hours of your scheduled flight. The only exemption to that would be, there's a couple of them, but one would be if you recently recovered from COVID-19 and you can show your positive test results within the last 90 days, you will be able to travel based on that. The approved vaccines are those approved by the World Health Organization, and they're listed on your screen. Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen are the three most popular here in the United States. In fact, they're the only three available here. They are available in other countries, but some of the other vaccines, AstraZeneca, Covaxin, Covishield, Sinovac, Sinopharm, are all also appropriate vaccines, and you can have any one of them, but you must have been fully vaccinated by at least one of those. When you go to get on your plane, you're going to need to carry your proof of vaccination. You're also going to be required to upload that proof of vaccination to our university health services as well. So make sure that you carry your vaccination certificate or a printout of your vaccination record. Digital photos of your vaccination card are also are approvable, but you've got to make sure that your name is fully on those. Other identifiers like your date of birth, passport number, all of those things have to match. The name of the official source issuing the record and the vaccine manufacturer and the dates of vaccination must all be on the proof that you carry or upload to the university. Now, there are some limited exemptions to being fully vaccinated for entry. One is that you're a citizen of a country where the COVID-19 vaccine is available on a limited basis. And limited basis means less than 10% of the population has been vaccinated, or if you're under the age of 18, or you have proof of a medical condition that prevents you from getting the vaccine. Those are the only exemptions to being fully vaccinated. Now, you can look on the appropriate website that's on this particular screenshot. These are the countries where our government says there's less than 10% of the population who are vaccinated. But you will notice that a big number of those countries are scheduled to go off the list in 2 weeks, meaning they will no longer be considered a country with less than 10% vaccinated. And so if you're not arriving before the 14th, but you're on one of these lists with the asterisks, that means you better get fully vaccinated before you come or qualify for one of the other exemptions. So keep that in mind. Now, if you are granted an exemption, you must first have a negative COVID test within 1 day of the flight, and then you must be tested within 3 to 5 days after your arrival for COVID-19, unless you've had it in the last 90 days. You're going to be required to self-quarantine for a full 7 days and isolate after that, depending upon the results. And if your intended stay is longer than 60 days, which if you're coming here to study, it certainly would be, you have to agree to become fully vaccinated within 60 days of arrival. Very few students are going to qualify for the exemptions, but just in case you do, those are the other requirements. In order to study in person at the University of Cincinnati, all enrolled students must be fully vaccinated or qualify for one of the exemptions or claim an exemption based on medical, religious, or philosophical reasons. You must submit proof of your vaccination to us as well. And you're going to do that at the UC COVID check email. And so you need to submit your proof of vaccination, preferably at least 1 week prior to the first day of classes, to UC COVID check. You can do that now if you have your proof of vaccination, so please do that. And you can visit our public health link if you want more information about the requirements for vaccination. It's important that you understand the arrival dates by which you must be here and some of the things you must do. So first, classes begin for summer on May 9th. You can arrive in the US if you're on an F1 visa or a J1 visa up to 30 days before the start date indicated on your I-20 or your DS 2019. If you're going to be living in housing, you should arrive no sooner than May 4th. That's when housing becomes available for the summer. Meal plans and dining centers do not open until May 4th. So if you arrive before then, you're going to need to plan on extra costs for meals, and you have to go out finding them in places other than our meal services units. Now, if you are arriving earlier than May 4th and staying in university housing, that can be accommodated, but you have to make those arrangements yourself with our UC housing office by completing what's called the early arrival form. And so the link is on this slide. Make sure that you follow it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the UC COVID Check app as well. You need to have that on your phone for using housing and all of those things. So make sure that you do that. Some other things that you're going to want to attend. First is on Monday, May 2nd, and this is a virtual welcome event from our office at 8:30. The link is on the screen, and Katie from my office is going to be posting in the chat the link and a code that you can download to get to that event easily. But we certainly want all of our new students to attend our welcome event, where you hear about our office, how to use our services, meet some other new students, some current students from the university. Please make sure you put that on your calendar and you attend our welcome event. You're also going to be required to attend a virtual Bearcat Bound orientation on May 12th. And that link will be sent to you sometime this month by UC's orientation office. Now, that event is strictly for undergraduate students and not graduate students. Make sure you're aware of that. And then on May 6th, and hopefully you can arrive here by May 6th, We are going to host a campus tour, a picnic with games, 11:30 to 1:30. And again, we ask that you follow the link on the screen or what Katie's going to provide for you to register for that. Again, it's a chance to get to know our staff, get to know current students, and set the tone for what we hope is going to be a very fun and productive experience for you here at the University of Cincinnati. So make sure you come to our event on May 6th. Now, most international students have to enroll in our UC Student Health Insurance Plan, and that takes effect officially on May 1st. If you arrive before May 1st, you will want to make sure that you have some kind of international traveler's insurance that will cover you in case of accident or illness. If you arrive before May 1st and you get sick or you get injured and you don't have additional insurance, medical care in the US is extremely expensive, and you're going to have a very large bill that no one is going to be able to help you pay for. So make sure that you are aware that if you're arriving before May 1st, that you have insurance from another carrier that will cover you in case of illness or emergencies. Obtaining necessary insurance is your responsibility. Now, in order for you to come to the US to study, we must certify that your program is full-time and not entirely online. Now, full-time for undergraduate students is 12 credit hours, and full-time for graduate students is 10 credit hours. You cannot come if all of your classes for the summer are going to be online. Now, most of our programs have returned to pre-pandemic levels of in-person classes offering, meaning that you should only be using 3 credit hours of online courses to reach the full-time enrollment requirement. For programs that haven't returned to pre-pandemic levels, you can take more than 1 online class or 3 credit hours to meet the full-time enrollment requirement, but you must be in some in-person courses. Ultimately, it's up to you to work with your program to determine where they're at. And again, most of them are now back to pre-pandemic levels, so you need to be planning on 12 credit hours, at least 9 of them being in person if you plan to come for the summer. Now, when you're registering for classes, we have 4 different types of classes, and knowing what the different codes are for will help you get into the right amount of in-person classes. So in Catalyst, when a course is designated as P, that means it's fully in person. If it's designated as DL, that means it is fully online. There are 2 other classifications that you need to understand. PD is for partial distance learning, and MD is for mostly distance learning. The PD courses are considered in person. The MD are not. They're considered fully online as well. So make sure that you're enrolling for the appropriate courses based on those designations. Now, from our standpoint, UC International Services, there are many things you have to do to report your arrival that we're going to need to activate your legal immigration record, and you absolutely have to make sure that you're following these instructions clearly. So the first thing is you must complete our pre-arrival checklist, and everybody should know what that is at this point. It's at ibearcatsglobal.uc.edu. Make sure that you're logging in using the New Student Scholar link, and that you know what your UC ID or M number is. And our office also would have provided you multiple times now an email with your PIN number to use our database. It's critical that you have your checklist up to date at the moment, as much up to date as you can make it, and we'll talk about that in a second, and then that you immediately upon arrival in the US go back and complete it. But when you go to our iBearcats global system, click the New Student Scholar login screen first, and there it's going to prompt you for your UCID number, your date of birth, and your limited access code. Enter that data and click the login button. Our pre-arrival checklist has 7 sections. And before May 9th, you are supposed to have arrived and completed all 7 sections. And you have to complete them in the order that they are listed. Now, this is what the pre-arrival checklist sections look like. It ranges from welcome up through I have viewed all of the resources for regulations and I understand the rules that I have to follow. You have to make sure that each section is complete. When you click the plus button by each section, it will show you the different sections for that particular topic and whether or not you have completed them or not. As of today, nobody on this webinar should be at less of a section than immigration review. And so at this point, you absolutely should have gotten your I-20 or told us you don't need an I-20 because you're studying on another immigration status, and you should at least be at the immigration review section. Now, when you're at the immigration review section, if you've already obtained your visa stamp, you should have that completed to that point. There are 3 parts to that immigration review section that I'll cover in a minute, but the last part of it, you can't complete until you enter the US. But let's talk about some of these sections. So, as I said, everybody at this point should at least be at our immigration review section. And when you open it, you're going to see that there's 3 sections, one for passport and visa upload, one for provide mandatory personal information, and one for the I-94 card. You can't open the next one until you complete the first one. So you can't get to provide mandatory personal information until you upload a copy of your passport and visa stamp. If you have your visa stamp, you obviously have your passport, you should have that completed. If not, complete it today. Then that's going to open up the provide mandatory information section. And when you complete that, it will open up the I-94 card section. You won't be able to complete that section until you actually have entered the US. But let's start with the passport and visa upload. So you go to that section and you need to upload for us a copy of your passport and visa stamp. It's going to ask you some questions, answer them appropriately, and then it's going to ask you to upload those files. Again, please make sure you've uploaded your passport and visa already. You do not need to upload the passport until the visa stamp is in your passport. But once that happens, make sure you do both. Once you do that, it's then going to allow you to complete the mandatory personal information section. Do not attempt to complete this section until you are sure what your address will be in Cincinnati. You must know your street address, the state, the zip code. It can be a temporary address, but you must update it to a permanent address once you relocate permanently. But it's important that you know to update that properly in our system and also in the university Catalyst system. In the Catalyst system, your local Cincinnati address will be your mailing address. The permanent address line in Catalyst is for your overseas address, so don't get those confused. Now, when completing this section, you'll also need to list for us at least one emergency contact. But most importantly, we need a valid and accurate local US address. So when you go to the section, you're going to enter all of the data that it asked for and answer the questions appropriately. But the most important part of this is making sure you enter your US address correctly. How we write our addresses in the US are vastly different than how most countries enter it, but you must enter it according to US standards. And you need to make sure you do this not only in our system, but when you're updating the Catalyst system with your address. But the street address always starts with the number, not the apartment number, the street number, and then the street name. If you have an apartment number, you can put that in street address 2 or put a comma and the apartment number after the street number and name. Cincinnati obviously is going to be the city, Ohio is going to be the state, but you must know what your accurate postal code will be. If you have a local phone number that's going to be active, you can put that. But if not, you can put our office phone number, 513-556-4278, and then update it when you get a US phone. If you have an email address that's a non-UC email address, you can enter that as well. But again, make sure you only complete this once you are 100% sure what your Cincinnati address will be, and make sure you enter the information clearly. For those of you arriving by plane from overseas or maybe from somewhere else in the US, we have a one-time free airport transportation service that you can take advantage of on the pre-arrival checklist in the mandatory personal information section. And so you can go to the link that's there, and it's going to ask you to use the one-time password that's listed there, 22S pound UCI pound BC. Make sure that you copy that. So when you go to the link, it's going to prompt you for that password, and you submit the password and tell the airport executive transportation when and where you're going to be arriving, what airline, what date, what time. When you get to the Cincinnati airport, in each baggage claim area, you will find an airport executive transportation desk. Get your baggage, go to the executive airport transportation desk, tell them you're a new UC student who signed up for the free airport transportation, and they will bring you to campus or your address in and around campus. So make sure you use that free service. Now, if you are already in the US, you can certainly and should be completed fully with our checklist, but most of you are coming from outside the US. And so you're not going to be able to complete immigration review or the checklist until you physically enter the United States. And this is where our pre-arrival checklist breaks down often with students. You know, we understand that coming to the US is difficult and you got a lot of things to do, but you have to remember, once you enter the US, you need to go to the I-94 card website and get your I-94 card, which indicates that you are an F1 student and that you have been admitted for what's called duration of status. So go to the website, verify that you've been classified properly, then make a copy of the I-94 card, return to our pre-arrival checklist, and complete the I-94 card entry record upload section. You'll be prompted to enter the number, the date you entered, all of those kinds of things, and to upload a copy of the card. Only you can provide us with the copy of the card. We can't go get it for you. You have to go to the website, get the card, upload it, and enter the information. Now, after you've arrived, every international student must complete a mandatory health screening. And to do that, you have to call our health services office at 513-556-2564. If you're already here and in Cincinnati, you should do that now. Call them, tell them you're a new student for the summer and you need your health screening. But after you arrive, make sure that you call them and schedule the health screening. If you don't, they can cancel your classes. This is an important state mandated process that you have to complete regardless of immigration status. Make sure that you do that. The final section of our checklist is called Resources and Regulations. And when you click on the link, you're going to see a bunch of options for regulatory information that you need to know. Information if you're going to be an F1 student. What are the requirements for registration? What if you have co-op or internship requirements? What do you need to do when you need to travel? All of those things are discussed, and it's up to you to review those materials yourself and then indicate when you have done so. Now, anything that I discussed today can change. If COVID gets worse, our government may change things, UC may change things, the state of Ohio may change things. We will notify students if things change, but you can keep up with information at the COVID-19 site as well. So anything that I talk about today could potentially change between now and when you arrive, but we don't think they will. Now, at this point, what I will do is I will open up the webinar for questions from anybody who has any. And so since there's so few students on this call, summer is not a very large intake for us. Just go ahead and unmute your mic, and Katie, if you need to give them permission to talk, do that. Just go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your question, and we'll be happy to answer them as you give them. So if you have any questions, open your mic and let us know what they are.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
So my program, like summer program, starts like July 1st. And until like, so I'm already in the US and I'm like working on STEM OPT. So until like June 15, I'm working where I'm working. So how does the I-20 work for me?
Okay, so let me ask you a couple questions. So first, what's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay, so Sarah, if you have an I-20 that says 7, so do you actually have your I-20 yet?
Not from UC. I have my not from UC yet. Okay. No.
All right. So if you're talking about a program that starts 7-1, are you by chance a graduate student in the College of Medicine?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you actually are not officially going to be classified as a summer admit. You're going to be classified as a fall admit, but they want their students to be here July 1 for their summer rotations. Now, what that means is, first, don't worry about doing anything before 5/9 because technically you're not starting in the summer, you're starting in the fall. But what you should be doing is making sure that you've gotten your I-20 form. And so now, if you are going to be on STEM, you said you're on STEM OPT, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so obviously you want to remain on STEM OPT until your last day of work. And so when does your EAD card expire?
It expires July 17th, but I am leaving work, like, you know, I'm like leaving this workplace by June 15th.
Okay, so then you want your card to remain valid till June 16th. And so what you have to do is you have to contact your international office from the school that you graduated from and tell them to make sure that they release your SEVP record to us on June 17th.
Okay.
And once they do that, we will on June 17th make you a July 1 I-20 form to start at UC. But you're going to be completing our pre-arrival checklist for the fall, not the summer. And so we'll make sure that you know, your admit record accurately reflects that you're a fall admit and not a summer admit. But for now, what you need to make sure that you do is, have you uploaded any of your sources of support yet?
I have. I have. So
So right
um,
now, then, what it really is, it's a matter of you making sure your international office has released your record to us effective June 17th. And on
mhm,
June 17th, we will make you an I-20 to start with us on 7/1.
all right.
Immediately after we send you your I-20 form,
Mhm,
you then need to go back and finish our checklist because you're going to be a graduate assistantship holder. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay, and so under the mandatory personal information section of our checklist, you're going to
Mhm,
want to enter, yes, you're getting a GA, and
mhm.
part of your finishing our checklist will be us onboarding you for your I-9 and your GA.
Okay.
Okay,
Awesome. Yep.
all
Thank you.
right, great. Any other questions out there? Okay, well, we will be posting this link on our website, and I will email all students who have been issued a summer semester I-20 the link so you can review it if necessary. But again, we look forward to your arrival in a couple of weeks. If you have any questions about what you need to do between now and then, please email us at international.students@uc.edu, and we will be happy to help answer your questions. So at this point, I will thank you for attending, and Katie, you can stop recording the webinar now, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.